Show me your moves.
If it comes on and I can't see it, just tell me.
You're going.
Because I can't see anything now.
Live.
All right. And welcome, citizens of the Twitchverse, to another episode of Geek Life, right here live on Twitch, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. If you're new to the show, we are a 2-hour mashup of all the pop culture news you need, you know and love. We talk about video games, we talk about movies, we talk about TV, we talk about comics, cosplay, and all things nerdy. So let's get right into it. Joining me today is the only liberal I know that still unironically loves Kanye, the man, the myth, the legend, Jake the Great from Gonzo Gone Live. How you doing today, Jake?
You can't tell me nothing. That's what. Yeah, that's a Kanye reference.
Still,
yeah,
staying true to your. I went over my head, obviously, yeah. But hey, staying true to your convictions, I can respect that. But also, get hype. Live from the shores of Paradise Island, Bronwyn the Warrior Princess is here with us as well. How are you doing today, Bronwyn?
I'm doing well. It's wonderful to be here. I've been here in spirit or behind the scenes running the chat, but now everyone gets to see me. So
yes. If you hadn't guessed it, Bronwyn has been our moderator in chat for a while, and she's been helping us out with the show. She's been part of the show back when it was a radio show in Tuscaloosa. And we're super stoked to have her here. We've got a lot to talk about, and she's here to help us talk about it. How have you guys been doing? You guys had any series, your recent series you've been binging? I think Jake and I, both of us have been head deep into Legend of Korra. And I'm already at season 2. I don't know how far along you are, but I've been really digging that.
Yeah, no, I literally just finished season 1 before this episode, before we started recording Geek Life. Yeah. And so the first chapter, the first book, I just finished the first book. And so, no, it was awesome, man. Yeah, no, I've been watching Legend of Korra pretty much exclusively. Started that on Friday whenever it dropped, like a lot of other people. And I'm sure we'll give a, complete rundown or review of that after we give more folks some more time, even though it is old, but it's just new to Netflix. So yeah, new to Netflix though. So, that means it's new to a whole new audience.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there. My bad. Yeah, no, it's been really fun. I've been really liking it. I've liked the universe that they've set up, and Bronwyn, what have you been binging?
So, or have you been binging anything? Not quite binging yet, but I just started the second season of Umbrella Academy earlier today, and I will be binging it later tonight.
Nice.
It's good. It's good stuff. I think number 5 has become a living meme for just stressfulness, and I've been really enjoying the 5 memes that have been out there. We have a great show planned for you guys today, but before we do, we want to remind anyone that if you like what you see here on the show tonight, feel free to follow us here or on either of our personal streams or Twitter pages and social medias. You can find me at Roos Bane on Twitter and Twitch. Jake, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Gonzo Gone Live. Yeah, right here, right in this area.
And Bronwyn, where can they find you? And on what social medias?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Space Nymph.
Nice.
There you go. Sweet. So we got a really great show planned for you today. Jake, what we got? Tell us. Give us the rundown.
Holy great show, Batman. We've got a great show, Batman. As always, we'll make some bunny ears out of tinfoil and show you our age with this week's TV news. Everybody's favorite sponge-based animation is getting a Sponge spin-off. Xavier's kids could be going back to school, even during a pandemic, But Avatar's creators and Netflix split, And that's an M. Night Shyamalan reference. Plus, parents just don't understand why The Fresh Prince would make a comeback as a drama, and neither do we. Then we'll be kind and rewind another outdated reference and give you all some movie news. New rogues rumored are sure to give Spidey a sting, right? That's a great one, by the way, once we get into that story.
More puns.
Detroit's glorious statue dedicated to Officer Murphy, aka RoboCop, is almost done. We'll give you a little update on that. I'd buy that for $1, which is an awesome. God, I love that movie. Anyway, Leto-led Tron 3 finally has some direction, and finally some great news for cinemaphiles. AMC is back, baby. In select locations. And so we'll give you all the news that you need there. Next, we'll rage quit and dive right into some video game news. What does Halo, Fall Guys, Pokemon, and BioShock have in common? That's right. They're all in this lazy version of this week's video game news breakdown. And then finally, in this week's deep dive, we'll be talking about the 2003 smash hit Toxic by Britney Spears and its influence on video games. I mean, what if, though? That'd be incredible. But actually, we'll be talking about toxic gaming communities. And then we'll wrap up the show with our top Zen, which is also based on some of the top toxic communities. But just because we don't want it to end in a bummer, we'll also talk about some of the most wholesome ones, some of the best communities out there. So
yeah,
that's pretty much all we've got on this week's show.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's get right into it. Let's start with some telenovela news. Bronwyn, who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants. Yeah.
Yes. Tell us a little bit. SpongeBob's got some news coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, he does, and so does his friend Patrick. SpongeBob SquarePants spin-off series, The Patrick Star Show, is coming to Nickelodeon. SpongeBob's success runs deeper than the Mariana Trench, with 20 years of episodes, multiple feature films, video games, and even a Broadway musical. This delightful world filled with nautical nonsense touches the heart of children and adults alike. The Patrick Star Show centers around SpongeBob's best friend Patrick as he hosts a late-night talk show in a similar vein of The Larry Sanders Show or Comedy Bang Bang. This unusual format will introduce a new cast of characters, but we can, of course, expect some appearances from the people or the sea creatures that we know and love. Our favorite residents of Bikini Bottom.
All right.
The same production team that brought us the original show has reportedly already started voice recordings for this 13-episode series debuting on Nickelodeon. In addition to the Patrick Star Show, SpongeBob himself is getting his own prequel spinoff that is set to be released on CBS All Access in 2021. Camp Coral SpongeBob Under Years takes you through the craziest camp in the kelp forest as young SpongeBob and his friends go off to sleepaway camp. With news this exciting, it'll even have Squidward smiling. But that's not all.
Oh, there's more.
There's more, yes.
There's more.
A feature film is coming out on CBS All Access as well that is SpongeBob SquarePants Sponge on the Run. So that is skipping box office and going straight to CBS All Access.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Well, I know I'm excited for
damn. Yeah, that's a lot.
It's insane that it's taken this long for there to be so many SpongeBob spin-offs or like just them to bring out more of this universe, really, you know.
He's getting the young Sheldon treatment.
Yeah. They're even going to go follow baby SpongeBob and see how his life's going. I wonder if that's cashing in on some of that baby Yoda money.
Yeah. Just make everything extra.
What if we made SpongeBob cuter?
Is it even possible?
I know, man. I mean, they're just throwing money at this. Like, we thought SpongeBob was over, especially after, everything that happened years before, the series ended, the creator died and all that stuff. But nah, they're just revitalizing that cash cow and cashing another check. That's interesting.
It's going to be... I mean, are you guys gonna watch it? I will watch the Patrick Star. I don't know about the Camp Coral or Camp whatever, but the Patrick Star show, like that sounds pretty interesting. Like it's supposed to be like
that
Comedy Bang Bang.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Is he coming for our job?
I'm
Can we have
hoping-
Patrick on an episode of Geek Life?
I would hope so. That would be great, wouldn't it? At least get the voice actor for him.
It's
But like,
coffee
if it's
cups.
anything like
We're going
Space Goes Coast to Coast, yeah. If anything like Space Goes Coast to Coast kind of thing, and just get that kind of vibe, then I mean that might really appeal.
Yeah, no, 100%. I would tune in.
Yeah. Well, in other news, the X-Men, the animated series producer, confirms that they've been in revival talks with Disney. That's right. The creative team behind the X-Men, the animated series, has made conversation with Disney about reuniting the cast of the beloved 90s animated series for a limited time revival that could premiere on Disney Plus. The 76th episode across 5 seasons between 1992 and 97. So that's a hell of a whole lot of content to put on there. But the acclaimed, highly rated series was a Saturday morning cartoon embraced by audiences both old and new, and it was made available for streaming plus on Disney Plus in November. They've obviously made conversations about actually, reviving the series and moving forward. Quote, they said, "We've made a conversation, but it's up to them to make the decision. But we've let them know that we're all available for whatever they want to do in the future." And that's from the series producer, Larry Houston. He confirmed in a recent interview. Many of the actors are willing to revitalize the series too, especially the original crew if brought together. Houston claims that the series could continue exactly where it left off. There's not really much plot holes to fix up. They can kind of just keep on going from there. I personally haven't seen the series, so I don't know exactly how it ends, but I know that at least for a long time this has been a highly acclaimed series, and I would just love to see something that's exalted as highly as it is. I would certainly give me a reason to invest some time into it. I mean, I don't know why I haven't. I love X-Men. X-Men's fantastic.
Yeah, it's added to my list on Disney Plus to go back and rewatch this, because the X-Men animated series was always one of the great ones whenever I was growing up, and so it'd be awesome to go back and revisit it, and then it would be amazing to see it get a reboot, man.
Yeah. Bronwyn, your thoughts on a personal reboot for X-Men the animated series?
I'd be into it. It depends on what they do with it, though. I know you guys got really into the rebooting troubles, but also some of the triumphs last week, so can go either way.
Yeah.
No, that's very true.
It could go either way. But speaking of reboots and going either way, tell us a little bit about what's going on with Avatar, Jake.
Yeah, if you haven't heard, Avatar's original creators are no longer involved in Netflix's new live action series. Some of those eagerly awaiting a planned live action version of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix are now calling for a boycott. That's because the original creators are no longer working on that adaptation. Michael Dante DeMarto posted an open letter on his site Wednesday announcing that he and fellow creator Brian Korensko, because I totally destroyed that one, have exited the project. In part of the letter, Demento wrote, "Many of you have been asking me for updates on Avatar, the live action Netflix series. I can finally tell you that I am no longer involved with the project. In June of this year, after 2 years of development work, Brian and I made the difficult decision to leave the production." And so I think we just dropped the full one in chat for the letter, but like, oh my God, it is, it's one of those that is giving everyone Shyamalan like flashbacks, which is why I made the split joke in the rundown. My humor is unbreakable, Dotson. I have a sixth sense for comedy. And so, anyway, oh my God, those are just, you're welcome. Crickets, but you're welcome.
I get it.
We need to get a clap laugh track. Listen, Kate, producer.
We do.
Thank you. But no, like this is huge news for anybody who's been watching the Avatar series so far, especially anybody who's just gotten into it with Netflix, bringing it onto the lineup. And then with Korra coming on, like we said at the top of the show, it's something that I think a lot of fans were looking forward to. But with the original creators splitting, this happened back when Shyamalan directed the movie as well. Because of creative differences, and now Netflix and the original creators are having creative differences, and so it just feels like it's the Shyamalan bang all over again.
Bronwyn, what do you think? Is this Shyamalan flashbacks for you too?
Yeah, a little bit too many many twists and turns for me.
Yeah. I mean, that live action series was absolutely awful.
Yeah. Clips of it make it to where it's one of those things where I don't want to watch it because I think it'll ruin Avatar for me. So like, and I hope this live action learns from that one. And I was hoping it did, and would have kept the original show creators, but we'll see how it goes.
I mean, I was too young to pay for the movie myself, but I did convince one of my parents to pay money to see that movie. And I mean, we walked out and be like, that wasn't worth our 2 hours.
That's 2 hours I'll never get back.
That's 2 hours I'll never get back. But and even more in the world of rinse, reboot, and repeat right here. We've got a fresher reboot. You could consider it the Fresh Prince of reboots, if you would. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is getting a reboot in the works. And there's a really interesting story behind this too. Bronwyn, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, well, following the release of a trailer a year ago for this Bel-Air, which was a dramatic revival of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, there's been a lot of buzz over what would happen with it because everyone was talking. It even got the attention of Will Smith, the original Fresh Prince himself.
I saw that interview. That was crazy.
Yeah, they showed his reaction to it, him talking to the writer and director, Morgan Cooper. But there'll be a full reboot of the series that's currently in development. If you've seen the trailer, you can tell right away there's a major vibe shift going on from the original 90s sitcom.
Yeah.
Cooper describes his drama as a reimagining and reinterpretation of this incredible story, bringing it into modern day life in 2019. So yeah, it's a lot darker and more of
Did you get a chance to watch the actual trailer?
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was a really interesting take. It was kind of like Breaking Bad meets Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, kind of vibes, but with at least like the tone wise, definitely not playing on the same tropes, but I think that's the whole story of the Fresh Prince reboot. I think is an interesting one because it's kind of like a little like Cinderella story reboot, Yeah, it's got one little director caught the attention of Will Smith, and then all of a sudden, so good for them, man. Good for them.
Yeah, and now there's currently HBO Max, Peacock, and Netflix are all bidding for this title for the series to be able to have it on their streaming services, which is interesting because, HBO Max has the original show right now, so it would be good to pair those together, but also NBC was the original home of it, and then you have Netflix just trying to get in on that too, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, following last week's discussion on reboots, what do you guys think of this and where it's going to go? What direction?
Obviously for me, like just going off of what I was saying earlier, I feel positively about the reboot. I think it's taking a different tone and taking a much more modern kind of adaptation. And I think that there's going to be an audience for it. And I think that it could be wildly successful. And the kind of Cinderella story aspect of it, I think kind of also makes me want it to be successful, so that's where I'm at on it. But it is, if people just go out and just look at Bel-Air and say, oh, this is a Fresh Prince reboot, and they don't understand like the whole like backstory of this is supposed to take a darker turn, I can see it kind of being like, oh, this is not what I ordered kind of thing. Yeah. Jake, what do you think?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know enough Zoomers to ask any of them if they're too old to have watched reruns of Fresh Prince. I think everybody knows
Yeah.
the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but like if you haven't actually
Right.
watched many episodes, I think a dramatic reboot could be interesting. Like
Right.
because even as somebody who's watched like a ton of episodes of Fresh Prince, I would watch the dramatic reboot. Like you said, I checked out the trailer. I thought it was pretty cool. It was very creative, and so
Yeah.
and it reminded me a lot of like I don't know if a lot of people know about it, but the director of the most recent Evil Dead reboot, which we talked about last week, being an awesome way to do a reboot. He was actually just like a small name director, and that was like his first feature length film. And so like they pulled him up from like YouTube film, and was like, hey man, direct this this movie that's about to go into theaters nationwide. And so like the Cinderella story of stuff like that's super cool. It just goes to show you that like, there's super talented people out there. Sometimes they just need a bigger budget. Looks at camera, waits for big budget to roll in.
Yeah. Exactly. Find us. Well, I think it's really cool, and I hope nothing but the best for the series. I can't wait to see what happens with this bidding war too. And I think just imagine being Morgan Cooper and going from somebody who just made a trailer online to now HBO is in a bidding war. HBO Max is currently in a bidding war with NBC, Peacock, and Netflix. Is that
Yes.
people are bidding for it?
Netflix and HBO are all like fighting for your title, like.
Yeah, you're just that's got to be a pretty awesome reality to be in for a 1 year improvement from releasing a trailer 1 year ago to now people are in a bidding war to reboot the entire series. Oof. Good stuff. Anyways, moving on to what we got in movie news. As you were saying earlier, Jake, Spider-Man got stung. Kraven the Hunter and Scorpion are rumored for 3. That's right. The untitled Far From Home sequel is reportedly now seeking a Joel Kinnaman type actor for an unspecified role. It's speculated that Kraven the Hunter, a Russian game hunter and mercenary. So let me kind of set the scene here for why people are speculating Kraven the Hunter and why people are speculating Scorpion.
Yeah.
First off, we had a Morbius trailer that dropped. Okay, this happened a little while ago, but there's just highlights from the Morbius trailer. There's a picture of Spider-Man with the word murderer on the wall. Now, the picture of Spider-Man that they had on there was from like the old Tobey Maguire movie. So someone was like, "Oh, well, this is a weird connectivity universe kind of thing." There's a lot of things that talk about in there, but we also do see Michael Keaton is Vulture in that trailer as well, Adrian Toomes. So that kind of more directly connects it to Spider-Man in the MCU. Now we also saw Michael Keaton or Adrian Toomes meet up with the Scorpion at the end of they become buddies in jail, and then that was based on the end scene of Spider-Man: Homecoming. I don't know if you guys caught that at the end there, but that's the dude with the Scorpion tattoo. Yeah, that's Scorpion. He becomes buddies with Vulture, and they're friends. So that's why we're thinking Scorpion. We've seen Michael Keaton's Vulture recently in a prison near Morbius. So we're thinking that those universes could possibly be combined. But if it's set in that Marvel universe, this could mean that the Spider-Man is one who's like the scene. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen some of the latest Spider-Man movie, Far From Home. But the scene is set up towards the end where Spider-Man's identity is known to the world and he's branded as a killer. I'll leave you to whatever reasons if you get a chance to check out the movie, but that's the kind of universe that Spider-Man's going to be in, and that kind of perfectly sets up a situation for Kraven the Hunter to come in with some of these roles that they're looking for. Kraven the Hunter, Vulture, Scorpion, all of these are part of the original Sinister Six, and so that's where these rumors are kind of sewn together. But what do you think about having the next Spider-Man movie having Kraven the Hunter as a possible villain? We're talking about someone who, hunts big game and thinks Spider-Man is the biggest game out there, especially in a world that sets him up as a killer who knows his identity. What do you think about that, and what do you think about them building towards a possible Sinister Six with that cast and crew?
I'm more pumped for this potential Sinister Six build-up, especially with Mysterio, with like Scorpion,
Mysterio in there too. I almost forgot to mention him.
Vulture, like with like this revamped MCU kind of Sinister Six could be pretty badass, and I'm super excited for it. And so like Kraven the Hunter, while dope, I'll take the filler flick in between that Sinister Six one. But like Sinister Six is going to be the end game for the Spider-Man MCU kind of like movie, cinematic universe. And that's going to be awesome, man. I think it's going to be great to see it on the big screen and see it fully play out.
Yeah. Bronwyn, you got any thoughts? Sinister Six?
Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter?
That I definitely agree that we're building towards Sinister Six, but I think that there's also going to be a lot of interesting dynamics just between Kraven and Spider-Man just to begin with. So that whole movie should be just like fun to see that dynamic play out, and all those movies are a lot of fun. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I agree.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man's been just fun to watch.
Yeah.
They can give me 10 more. They can give me 10 more movies of that, and I'll watch them all. Like,
hands down, I'll eat it up. I mean, the direction that they've gone on each of them, I feel like the home series that they've had has been it's been pretty good. Tom Holland's been my favorite Spider-Man that they've had so far. So yeah, I can hands down get on board with that. Speaking about fun things, though,
great transition.
Getting a new statue. Detroit's getting a new statue. You know a little bit more about that than I do, though, Bronwyn. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so it's getting Detroit's glorious RoboCop statue has been nearly a decade in the making. It's almost done. It's not quite done, but it's almost done. Mm-hmm. And the wait was worth it, guys. After 9 years, Motor City is finally getting its much anticipated RoboCop statue. In 2011, the project started as a Kickstarter campaign to both grace the city with a larger than life portrayal of the cyborg law enforcement that the classic 80s film, and also to appoint Detroit with a mascot. Holdups in the fabrication process, along with copywriting issues, dragged this process out for over almost the span of a decade. But a recent comment on this campaign, someone stated, in the time this project was funded until now, Detroit entered and exited bankruptcy. A new RoboCop movie shot, edited, and released. And Detroit has flourished and become an almost unrecognizably better city. So all that happened at the time of them building this statue. It's going to be great, guys. It stands at 11 feet tall. Bronze statue. Its base itself is weighs a half a ton. And it's nearly complete. It just needs a finishing weld, a little last weld, and a finishing coat of patina. But who knows how long that'll take. Hopefully not too long, because they've been waiting a while for this.
That is crazy. I don't know necessarily how I feel about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you have an early stream where you asked the question, was RoboCop propaganda?
Propaganda, yeah.
Propaganda.
This is what I have weird feelings about RoboCop, okay? And I will explain them. But I will start it off with, if they're going to at least make a statue to a cop, at least it's a fictional RoboCop.
But Officer Murphy was a hero.
There's a lot of media out there that glorifies police officers, and I don't really vibe with that. And I don't know how much I necessarily like that. But if it's going to be a police officer, at least it's a fictional one that eventually turns on police officers and becomes a giant sentinel like cyborg thing, right?
Yeah, I think about RoboCop 3. No, I mean, he's always like RoboCop, but like he does end up like working with other Sentinels and taking over robots, and like kind of like entering the grid, if you will. But like like you said, if there's a statue for any cop, it might as well be Officer Murphy. The guy died a hero, and then was part of a terrible science experiment, and then like you said, towards RoboCop 3 ends up being a great thorn in capitalistic, society side. He cleans up Detroit. Yeah. He gives it back to the people, and I think that's why Detroit needs this statue more than anything.
I feel like I need to watch all the series to judge it from afar, but it just got me it got me at the gate with RoboCop. Yeah. What do you think, Bronwyn? Do you think RoboCop's propaganda?
So I haven't seen that many of the movies, so I'm not quite sure. I was more just intrigued by the artistic process. I'm at the same level. I haven't seen very many of the
movies. That's fair.
Yeah, but from a sculptural and artistic standpoint of this, I just think it's just comically long how this has just taken 10 years for this to happen. Yeah. So that's the glory in the finishing of this sculpture.
That's the point Robin was to highlight. It's like it took 10 years for y'all to get your shit together to do this. That's a good point.
It's a great transition to our next story, which is that Tron 3 found its latest director. And if you don't know, that is also something that has taken 10 years. So in the time that they have started working on that statue, we've also finally gotten a new Tron director for Tron. New Tron. It's not ready yet either. And so
according to about that, man.
Yeah, according to Deadline, Tron 3 is currently in development at Disney. It hasn't been given an official green light by the studio yet, so there is no guarantee that the new movie will actually see the light of day. Still, 10 years after the release of Tron Legacy, a follow-up is more than likely to happen. Word of this Leto-driven Tron movie first surfaced in 2017, or 2007 actually, with The Hollywood Reporter indicating the film would be a franchise reboot rather than a direct sequel to Legacy. Leto is reportedly playing a new character named Ares, one who is said to have been a key part of the abandoned Tron 3 script. This could imply that the reboot is still part of the same universe as the previous two films, but it's unclear whether characters like Olivia Wilde's Cora will return. And so this is, this is something that I think a lot of Tron fans are super excited to hear about. I was super excited to hear about it when I first read about it. Jared Leto just fits that Tron universe. And so, when news first kind of like came out that Leto was going to be, he said what?
I don't trust him. I don't trust Leto anymore.
Yeah, will he do with Tron what he did to Suicide Squad? We don't know.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I think the Joker was an easy one for him to drop the ball on. Tron gives him a little bit more kind of like creative. He can go. Have you seen the guy lately? He's like a cult leader. So like
I worked at his festival. Actually, I worked at Camp Mars, so I've been up close and personal with Mr. Leto.
Out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, out in the middle. Okay. Of Calabasas,
well, then how is he?
Actually.
Do you think he could do a good job?
I'm skeptical.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, at least, even if Leto drops the ball, I think Tron's franchise living to see the light of day again is great because, Tron's just one of those franchises that, like, Disney needs to get it right. They need to get it right, and they've gotten it kind of close, but, like, they need to just finally, like, lock in and just give us a good Tron movie once and for all.
Right. Speaking of once and for all, AMC has finally decided that they're going to reopen on August 20th with 15-cent tickets. Tell us a little bit about that, Bronwyn.
Movies in 2020 at 1920s prices.
Bingo.
Yep, that is their tagline. They're drastically lowering their admissions pricing following the reopening of their theaters after a 5-month closure. And they're opening in just select cities because they still have to comply with local guidelines. A lot of places aren't allowing theaters to reopen now, but in the places where they are reopening, AMC is doing this major deal. But obviously, with the majority of the summer box office titles being pushed back, they are going to be opening with some of our more classics or films that came out more recently, such as Black Panther, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Star Wars, Grease. You'll be able to see these movies when the theaters reopen. And as we touched on a little bit last week, the New Mutants and Tenet will be some of the first new films to be released on the silver screen. So that'll be,
Well, there you go.
There you go.
AMC has found a way to convince you to try to come in so they can feed you overpriced popcorn and make up the rest of their money that they did on selling you 15-cent tickets.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Exactly.
They are
People
ready.
could die if they come back to the movie theaters. All right. How about we offer tickets for 15 cents?
Yeah.
That'll show them. Okay, well then okay, well that makes sense. Yeah, that works. That makes it so they don't die anymore.
And let's show them some bangers that they probably have on DVD at home, like Back to the Future.
Why not show movies from the 20s? Make really blasts from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know if anybody would pay though. Even 15 cents. Would you dive to go watch a 1920s movie in theaters? Let alone like the Ghostbusters. You know, I love Bill Murray, but I don't think I'm gonna go risk getting COVID to go see Bill Murray on the big screen.
Yeah.
The local hipster down here in Austin would be like, why would I go spend 15 cents on a ticket when I could go down to the local art theater and watch the show for free with a glass of wine? So I think that even the hipster ideal doesn't appeal there, but I think it's still a better idea than, you know, Black Panther or Back to the Future or something that people could literally, you know, scroll through HBO Max and find.
Oh yeah,
You know?
no, all of those are still on streaming. Like Tenet is the one that I think is going to pull people in, and that's why Tenet's been pushed back so many times, because they know that like Tenet's going to be, you know, it's asses in seats, baby, and so like, you know, they're waiting to where, you know, a few of these studios can, or these theaters can start to reopen, so then they can drop Tenet on us. And like, you know, it'll depend on, you know, each state. And America's so big that this is one of those countries where like some states are handling Rona pretty okay. You know, like maybe that you can go see a movie if they get some social distancing and some mask up in there.
And we talked about Onward before, right? And we talked about how the economic loss that Onward has made because of it, and how much of a big budget it was. And I think Tenet was one that was right in the little twilight zone, and this is why it basically became the whole litmus for when we're going to open up theaters and how we're going to do it. Was because it was in that little twilight zone of like, it was further out than Onward was and all those other movies, but was like right at the cusp of that. But it's also a big budget movie that if they go to straight to video on demand, they're going to see the same thing that happened with movies like Onward. And so if you're the person that's invested a whole bunch of that movie, you know, there's an argument, you know, with your, at least with your investment, why you don't gamble that. You know, whether that investment is worth risking people's lives, you know, up to your political opinion.
Or just making people wait.
Anyways, I think with that, we're going to take a short 10-minute break. And we're back. How's it going, guys? All right, so we're talking about what's going on in the world of video games now. And we're going to start right off with Pokemon Go released some updates, including a Genesect raid. Genesect previously was only available due to like special event research, and I believe a limited like ticket you could buy. But Pokemon Go's third and final Ultra Unlock event of the summer for Unova Week kicks off on August 14th, which was Friday of this week. We're now August 16th. I know time is all wibbly wobbly now. We're in the COVIDs. But as part of the festivities, the mythical Pokemon Genesect is returning to the game. So Genesect will appear in 5-star raids throughout Unova Week, which runs from, as I said, August 14th to August 21st. So you still have a few more days, with the possibility of a shiny encounter. So you could get you a shiny Genesect, which would be nice and fun. If you're going to do a Genesect raid, I'm definitely going to recommend a Fire-type legendary. Reshiram, Entei, Moltres, those will be really effective if you got one of those, or other Fire-type Pokemon like Chandelure, Darmanitan, Charizard. Those will also be really helpful. So the previous only way to encounter was a special research event story and was in EX raids, which required an invitation. So now there's going to be available in just 5-star raids, which would be perfect. The other thing that they have is a choose your own community day. Niantic announced that for the community days for September and October will be decided by a vote. And when I checked the story, they didn't have any details on how the vote would be decided, but I think that they've probably come up with something about that by now. Let's see if I can pull up Cerebi and find out. But the options that they have for it are going to be Porygon, Charmander, Grimer, and Caterpie, and I definitely hope they go with Porygon. I don't know about y'all. I don't know. Do you guys even still play Pokemon Go? Do you know that there are people that still play Pokemon Go? There's actually a community out there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it.
No, I do. I did. I definitely I'm still in a few Facebook groups that are pretty active. Like especially I know back home in Tuscaloosa, there's a few active groups and everything. And so the choose your own community day is going to be a pretty big one for a lot of folks. And so I haven't played Pokemon Go in a while. I haven't even played Pokemon Sword in a minute, to be honest. I got to pick it back up.
I played Pokemon Sword religiously. I played it this week.
I watched your stream a little. Yeah, no, I saw you.
Yeah.
You were out there balling on kids.
Big Pokemon fan. I think that if there's anything I know about the community, it's probably going to get Charmander's probably going to get picked. Any chance that people can get a chance at a shiny Charizard? Because let's be honest, shiny Charizard is one of the cooler shinies out there. But I personally hope it's Porygon because I've actually been having a lot of fun with Porygon lately in some of my streams. I don't know if you caught my latest one, but I actually used a Porygon Z on the team, which was after a famous Pokemon player named Fezzy. He won the Streamers Cup. Shout out to Fezzy. Congratulations on winning the Streamers Cup. I stole your team and used to get to Master Ball tier.
Nice.
But it was a lot of fun. So Porygon would be a fun choice. I don't know. If you had to pick, Bronwyn, what would you pick? Porygon, Charmander, Grimer, Caterpie, Community Day?
I'm going to go for Caterpie.
Caterpie. Have you gotten even chance to play Pokemon Go, or were you part of the fad in 2016 and exited out? Or you still play it, or?
My dog still is dealing with some PTSD from Pokemon Go. If I say it too loud, he just kind of hides under the bed. No, but I did play it a lot. I started playing it. I played it both here in LA, and then because I was here during a break, and then I went back to Tuscaloosa and played it there. So it was interesting just to see the different Pokemon that were available just geographically. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, all right. Go's always fun to play.
It is. It's a fun thing, especially when you're touring around different spots. So I still have mine open. I played the Magikarp Community Day because I like some Gyarados and give me a chance to catch some Magikarp inside of my house. And it wasn't too bad, so I don't know. Hopefully, we get a cool community day coming up here, but tons of fun Pokemon Go news. But much bigger news coming out, not from Nintendo, but from Microsoft. Xbox gets its release date. Tell us a little bit more about that, Jake.
Yes, Microsoft confirmed this week that the Xbox Series X will launch in November, but the company could be targeting a very specific date, November 6th. And so everybody get a little stoked. Looks like the
6th of November.
Exactly. While the ongoing coronavirus pandemic may affect Microsoft's exact launch date for the Xbox Series X, distributors seem to be getting ready for a November 6th drop specifically. According to recent leaks from distributors of Microsoft paraphernalia, batches of Xbox controllers have been delivered with a do not open date of November 6th. And so this is leaving a lot of people to believe that the Xbox Series X could be releasing early November. And so I think a lot of folks are pretty excited about it. But as soon as everyone started to get excited about it, they got a punch in the gut from 343 Industries, who announced that Halo Infinite will no longer be a launch title with the new Xbox.
No.
And they are postponing Halo Infinite until 2021. And so in a letter to fans, 343 Industries wrote, today I want to share an important Halo Infinite development update with the community. We have made the difficult decision to shift our release to 2021 to ensure the team has adequate time to deliver a Halo game. the experience that meets our vision. And so it is it's one of those things where, yeah, like everybody was super pumped for the Series X. It's supposed to have this whole new gaming kind of like, dude, what is it called? Now I'm drawing a blank. But like, it's supposed to have this whole new, system. It's supposed to be cutting edge, and it's supposed to bring Infinite into Steam. 4K. And no, what is the not a processor? I'm trying to remember the name of those things, and I'm drawing a blank right now. That is so crazy.
Things.
Yeah, the fancy computer things in it, the chips. Yeah. It's supposed to have a new one of those chips things. Fancy computer things. Yeah. Gotcha. And so better, stronger processors, and and all that stuff. And so like but anyway, long story short, Jake, it was supposed to.
Yeah, Jake, you know what console doesn't delay their flagship titles till months after launch, after teasing you fans with trailers? PlayStation.
Oh yeah, no, I think there is another one. I'm PC Master Race, so I don't really have a dog in the fight.
Fair enough.
But no, I still do own an Xbox. I haven't decided who I'm gonna side with in this new battle, if you will. And the war goes on every year. But speaking of PlayStations, we did get some PS5 info that Sony has confirmed a holiday 2020 release window for the PS5. It still hasn't gotten an exact release date. In the past, November has been a frequent month for console releases, but nothing is confirmed beyond the fact that the PS5 is releasing in 2020. Recent leaks have pointed at a November 20th, 2020 release date, which would make it, November 20, 2020. That'd be interesting. And it would obviously be to keep pace with the November 6th release date of the Xbox Series X. And so... Oh, man. It's going to be interesting to see which one of these hits the shelves first. Like you said, PlayStation is obviously going to be hitting it with some release titles there at launch. But as an Xbox fan in a little bit, as a small fan of an Xbox, the more superior console will release earlier on November 6th, and then we'll wait for a more superior Halo experience. You know what I mean? And so, because I think we made fun of how terrible that game looked last week.
Look, does your console look like Seto Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh? I don't think so. Ours does.
Oh my god, dude, that tower. It's going to be interesting, to see, because I think if Transformers are a real thing, they're going to try to fight everybody's PS5s real quick, and then so at least there'll be that distraction.
We have that. We have that. Well, I mean, that's interesting to see how they're keeping pace, and going back and forth, and
Bronwyn,
it doesn't look good for Xbox
in the console wars.
I'm definitely Team PlayStation all the way, always.
So you're gonna
do it
on PS5? Nice.
Yeah.
What she's saying is she's on the right side.
Exactly.
In other news, BioShock 4 has a couple of rumors coming out about it. And of course, this would be the sequel, of course, to BioShock Infinite. Not necessarily the fourth in the series, but BioShock has always been pretty bad with their numbering system. Anyways, we won't get into that. BioShock 4 might not take place. What was that?
Timelines and BioShock. We could do that a whole episode.
We could do a whole episode on it. We could. But yeah, so BioShock 4 rumor seemingly won't take place in Rapture or Columbia. GameByte originally reported Monday that the studio had behind BioShock, the next BioShock game, which is Cloud Chamber, has several job listings that seem to hint at what the team is looking for in the next game of the series. Now, these are some quotes. We want you to help us breathe new life into a new and fantastical world. Some of the job listings read, together we will set the stage for a stunning narrative and system-driven experiences. Fans of the series speculate that this signifies a shift away from Rapture of Columbia, specifically because they're looking for people to breathe life into a new world. The other listings include Wes Anderson-like precision and a posh, I don't know if that's the right way to say that word, but we're going to pretend that is, in your camera positioning and movements. Panache? Panache in your camera positioning and movement, and the ability panache. That sounds right. Panache in your camera positioning and movements. Third time's the charm, and the ability to create and implement systemic in-game scripted sequences. The listing seems to indicate that you'd expect the game will indeed be a first-person shooter like the BioShock games that came before it. Another listing says develop an FPS combat paradigm that is accessible, satisfying, and allows for a high degree of player expression and experimentation with a highly reactive world. Look beyond the direct conflict and accommodate various playstyles and design encounters that can be resolved through player ingenuity. Now, a lot of this stuff is very generic, but because it's very generic and because it seems to be kind of pointing in a bit of a different direction, I mean, you can kind of look at it squinty-eyed and look at some of those last ones, look beyond direct conflict, accommodate various play styles and design encounters that can be resolved through player ingenuity. There haven't really been various play styles in BioShock before, unless you're counting different stuff with the fight mechanics with powers. I don't know. There's a lot of skepticism here. I mean, well, maybe be skeptical of an entirely new setting. All of the job listings make it clear that they're making a new BioShock game. One entry for a senior world designer reads that they are looking for someone to work on an unannounced AAA first-person action game. And this studio is with them making the BioShock games in the previous, if they're going to say that if they have the gall to say an unannounced AAA first-person action title game, then they have a franchise that has some good money behind the IP. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No, I actually enjoyed BioShock Infinite. I was wondering if this was about to turn into a shit on BioShock moment, because it's just like
no, not at all.
Because I'm excited for a new BioShock, and I think it being in a new world is going to be super interesting. But like you said, there has been a lot of rinse and repeat, but it has been a long time since Infinite dropped. I was still in college, and that just feels like years ago. And so
it quite literally was.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think this some of these listings, Bronwyn, do you think that they indicate a new game, or do you think that they're just too vague to really even take seriously? What do you think?
I think we can take it seriously. It has been a while since they released a game, as you just stated, and I'm excited because I love the design of the BioShock games, that steampunk feel, that kind of creepiness. Maybe you don't want to play it alone at nighttime, but you kind of do. I love that about the BioShock games, so sign me up for whatever they're going to come out with. I'm down.
And to be fair, the last time they did a game, they did it in a completely new world. So why wouldn't they say, like, hey, it was really successful when we made this into a completely different world. Why not do that again?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So, I think that there's some merit to it, man. There's some merit to it for sure. But we couldn't talk about video games and not mention what's been sweeping Twitch right now by storm, or more like falling all over Twitch, to be more precise, which is Fall Guys, which I believe reached 2 million players on Steam. Tell us more about that, Bronwyn.
Yeah, it did reach 2 million players, and with numbers that high, Fall Guys is officially the most successful launch ever for both Devolver and Mediatonic. So nice. Fall Guys is doing really well, and we actually have a Fall Guy streamer on here with us, right? Fall Guy streamer with us on here right now. I was watching Jake play. And oh my gosh, is that fun or what? You have these crazy costume little characters just battling for it, all running around like you're in this Japanese game show, and everyone's knocking into each other, falling over. You're quite successful too. I saw your little victory. Not quite a dance, but more of like a victory punch out, whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, it was a fury of punches. That's what I was saying earlier. It was awesome. Fury of deadly punches.
I popped by for a second, and you were talking about like, there's some people coming by to watch me play this kids game, and I was like, this is not a kids game. I made this point in the chat, and this is a kids game. This is a game that was made for Twitch so that we could see people pushing 30 get really, really frustrated over falling over with these ridiculous characters that are just waddling back and forth, stumbling over a finish line. Dude, that is what it's made for.
And it's not just the streamers who are getting excited about this. Companies, major companies have also been jumping on the bandwagon for this game, designing their own crazy outfits, their skins. KFC, Walmart, even Chuck E. Cheese have taken to Twitter to show signature skins to be worn by these colorful, cutesy characters. So it's not just the gamers, it's becoming this whole new like advertising world of
course it is
within the game, right?
Yeah.
So Jake, when are you getting your Supreme outfit?
Right.
Oh dude, if they drop a Supreme skin in Fall Guys, I'm gonna be one of the first to buy it because I'm such a sucker for hypebeast stuff in the first place.
What if it's $20? $20.
20. Yeah, I got a good job. I'll pay for that.
Yeah, it's
$20. I want to see where this line is,
dude. We got a lot of show left, and life's been okay, so it's one of those where I don't know, man. And I've been playing a lot of Fall Guys. And, Fortnite got a lot of money out of me in early on because I'm a sucker for aesthetics, and you throw a couple cool skins my way, dude, I'll buy them. But Fall Guys has been a ton of fun, and it's something that I think I've streamed probably. It's going to be my most streamed game if I do it probably like one more time, because I have legit been playing it back to back to back. And of course, brands want in on it. Whenever you have 2 million players, that's a lot of eyeballs on a video game. And so if they can get their brand in front of somebody, or if they can get their brand in front of those 2 million folks, it doesn't matter if they're kids. If it's if it's anything like the KFC one that I saw, it's a cute and fun way to do it, but it's also going to make a lot of kids go, I kind of want some KFC.
Yeah. I see that it's I think it's the game of the month on the PlayStation 4 too. So it's just getting a lot of eyeballs on it right now. Yeah. And it is blowing up. So good for Fall Guys. Good for Fall Guys.
No, and I dominate at it. You can always watch me, coming in last place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a story of someone being successful, but someone who's been the king of the hill for a while is starting to roll back downhill, or at least has hit a major stumbling point. Fortnite has gotten banned from the App Store. Jake, what do you know about this?
Yeah, we would not be a proper news channel if we had not talked about Fortnite getting banned from store. Apple has always been a complicated relationship with the game industry, but this month that relationship slid into a bitter and very public legal regulatory war that could shape the future of iPhone apps. According to The Verge, the first escalation occurred when Apple made it clear that their terms of why it has no plans to ever, approve cloud gaming services from its tech rivals Google and Microsoft. The second one was an Apple kicked the massively popular Battle Royale hit Fortnite off the App Store after its creator Epic Games provoked the company with a rule-violating update. So anyway,
you know what the rule-violating update was?
Yeah, that's what I was about to get into. I just had to catch my breath. It's kind of a doozy. This story
catch your breath.
This Fortnite story has been insane. So basically what happened is that Apple takes 30% of cut from anything that game developers make within the App Store. Fortnite and its creators Epic are claiming that Apple has a monopoly on app stores and app downloads and apps and in general, which is something that Apple has been accused of, especially recently. They just saw their CEO Tim Cook testify in front of Congress about this. Okay, and so it's one of those things where the creators of Fortnite and Epic Games and everybody, they've decided that they're going to challenge Apple's monopoly on the App Store, or at least that's what they're claiming. But not many people kind of challenge multi-trillion-dollar corporations, but then also have full marketing campaigns lined up with it. Epic completely trolled Apple with a great 1984 ad about corporate dystopias.
You mean the Hammer ad?
The classic. Yeah, the
Oh
glass, like hammer and the glass ad or whatever. It's
Yeah.
honestly very well done, and it looks like something that Epic was kind of planning to do. They even released their full detailed 62-page legal complaint about how they believe that Apple is the corporate bad guy and how they're aggressively taxing and restricting developers. And so and they just continue. Epic continues to complain that Apple's behavior breaks the law. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with all of this. With Epic really trolling, Apple at this moment. It's going to be funny to see if they do return to the App Store. But as of right now, I do not believe Fortnite is in over 1 billion devices, essentially.
Wow. That is absolutely crazy. But I mean, I don't even know where to go with that. Whose side do you even take in this situation? I mean, good on Fortnite for sticking it to Apple, but
yeah,
you agreed to the terms of the agreement. I don't know. I don't know how to look at the story.
It's going to be a lot back and forth. I feel like it's just going to they're going to do this and then they're going to do that. And I think that there's going to be more to this story, definitely.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that Epic just couldn't give Apple 30% of ebook. That's all it really comes down to. It's 30% of ebook purchases. And Epic's like, we don't want to give Apple 30% of ebook purchases. And Apple's like, well, we provide the device. We provide the store that you sell the device, like your game through. And, the guys at Epic are like, well, that's cool and all, but we could make our own store if you would allow it.
Right.
But they won't allow it. And so that's where it gets super tricky.
Yeah. Well, shit, dude. I guess they got the point with they're pushing they're Elon Musk in it. They're trying to push the freedom. But well, you won't allow us to make our own and develop our own. So you're controlling all the means. So and all right, if that's the game they want to play right now, then do what?
No, 30% is a lot of money. Some people, some people would say, but it is, and it's one of those where this is probably going to be a long legal battle, and we'll see if Fortnite ever returns.
We will see. But speaking of returning, Shroud and Ninja made a big, huge return to Twitch in huge numbers. Moving on to some other news here, and you've also got some more about that too, Jake. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sticking kind of with the Fortnite fashion here in other news, Shroud and Ninja both returned to Twitch with some huge numbers. Shroud returned to Twitch on Wednesday and was rewarded with a staggering number of viewers, peaking at around 516,000 viewers, most of who ended up just watching him fiddle with his audio. And and so, I did a little stream this morning where I fiddled with my audio and video, and unfortunately, we did not hit 516,000 views.
No, I think we might hit it in this stream, but I think we're just a little bit shy right now. We're just a tad shy.
Oh yeah. I think I fiddled with my audio for as long as I could, but never got up to 500,000. So, but after making sure that his live stream was up to par, he began streaming Valorant, boosting the game's viewer count on Twitch significantly during the live stream. Shroud said he had really only expected about 200,000 fans, which still must be nice.
I expected like 200,000, man. Only 200,000.
Yeah, and so
to be fair, I mean that's a reasonable estimate. I only expect around 100, 200,000 every time we turn on, right?
One can dream. The excitement around his return isn't surprising though. He was previously one of the most popular live streamers on Twitch before inking a deal with Mixer. Following the closure of Microsoft's owned streaming service, fans speculated where he would eventually end up. After a month of silence, he began to tease his return to Twitch via his Twitter. And Shroud's not the only one. Ninja is hinting at a possible return as well to the platform. So we're not the only ones coming back to Twitch, which we never really were on Twitch, but we can pretend we're Shroud and Ninja if you want to. Mm-hmm. So Ninja streamed Fortnite on his Twitch account Wednesday, which is not banned on PC. So nearly a year after the day that he left this service exclusively to deal with Mixer. In that time, Ninja has streamed on Twitch since leaving, or in this time, Ninja has not streamed on Twitch since he left. So with Mixer shutting down last month, Ninja has been released from his contract and he is free to stream wherever he'd like. So far, he seems to be testing the waters. He streamed a little bit on YouTube, but then his Twitch stream had over 100,000 viewers in just 15 minutes after he went live. Yeah. His debut stream on YouTube last month had more than 4 million views. And so I think he's going to bounce back and forth and try to figure out where he wants to find home, but it looks like Twitch may be the place again. And so it's going to be interesting to see where both of these behemoths wind up after Mixer shut down.
Exactly. I still see people dispersing after Mixer shut down. I see a bunch of them on Facebook primarily. But I haven't seen as many on Twitch, but that does make sense. And I've seen the Twitch population growing and growing. And, with the pandemic and everything, I can only imagine that these guys would have already been streaming and taking advantage of all the time inside. But hey, I mean, that's incredibly impressive. Bronwyn, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's very what's the word? I lost it. Looking up to inspiring. Yes.
Inspirational.
Inspirational. Sorry,
yes, that's the word.
And then I hopped right back in here and trying to have my brain in two places right now.
Oh, no worries. I got you.
Yeah, it's inspiring. I like it. Looking up to them, and hopefully our stream will be at that level of views.
Oh yeah,
one can only hope. Well, we'll have Ninja on here for a full interview as soon as he responds to my multiple DMs. I'm sure he'll get to them eventually.
Quit avoiding us, Ninja.
Yeah.
Quit avoiding us. We totally would love to have you on here. We also have some more other news and some more Twitch news because Twitch has rebranded as the Twitch Prime has started a rebranding came as Prime Gaming. And you know a little bit more about this than I do, Bronwyn. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so it's actually leaked that Amazon and Twitch partnership is being rebranded from Twitch Prime to Prime Gaming. So it's free to all Amazon Prime members and will include in-game upgrades, boosts, skins, free PC games each month, monthly Twitch TV subscription, and also limited discounts. So Amazon's also teasing exclusive content from games like Grand Theft Auto Online, Red Dead Redemption Online, Apex Legends, FIFA 20, League of Legends. So with your Amazon Prime membership, you're able to have this limited access, which is really interesting, and kind of going through a rebranding of that because they had different services available, similar services available, but they're just kind of updating it and revamping it and offering a little bit more to its users now.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's good to see that, I guess, I don't know. It looks like just a reskin to me. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, no, it's as a marketing guy, they're going from Twitch Prime to Prime Gaming. And this is a clear thing where they kind of want to, it's not phase out Twitch, it's just phase in Amazon's, streaming or branding a little more. And so they want to call it Prime Gaming so that as a Prime member, this is something that you get. And it's a push to get more gamers, I would say, on, onto the Prime kind of like platform, if you will. Which, does offer music. It offers everything, there's a lot of people who think Amazon Prime is just quick shipping, but this is just them trying to harder push that brand and say, we're more than just quick shipping. There's music, there's movies, there's a whole Prime video streaming service. And so, I think overall Prime's kind of worth the I think it's $100 a year or something like that. And so it's kind of a, one of the pricey ones, but it's still, if you're going to be shopping on Amazon, streaming, listening to music, and even gaming now, it seems kind of worth it. But, this isn't a Prime commercial, but if Amazon wants to sponsor this, I'll do a quick Jeff Bezos commercial for you guys. Jeff Bezos, not exactly the devil.
Right. Not Lex Luthor if you squint hard enough.
Yeah, not Jeff Bezos. Totally not Lex Luthor.
Totally not Lex Luthor. Well, I think that about sums it up. We're going to take a short 10-minute break. We will kick it off to a break, and we'll see you guys back in 10. And we are back. What's going on, Twitch? We are back from our break, and we are talking about what's going on. We've got a difficult conversation coming up because we want to talk about mostly the toxicity in our city. No, we're really here to talk about toxicity in the gaming community and communities in general. I'll start this off here. Anyone who's been in a Call of Duty chat room for more than a few hours knows that the gaming community has a lot of problems with toxic players. Misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, racism. It's a huge issue in competitive gaming communities on every platform. And we wanted to take some time to talk about toxicity in online gaming, why it's so pervasive, and healthy ways to address it. So I've got a couple of questions for you guys, and I wanted to hear your answers. First one, what are some examples of toxicities that you've seen in gaming communities, particularly stuff related to misogyny, homophobia, and racism?
I can go ahead and start. I'll take
it. Yes, Robin, you go first.
Snatch it up. So yeah, a lot of misogyny I've experienced in gaming communities, just either people saying, just tearing you apart for if you make one little mistake in a game, like, oh, you're a girl, you can't game, like that sort of mean nastiness, or just any of your accomplishments just not meaning much, and being really sexualized and to the point where you leave those communities. Like, I haven't been able to stay online gaming for very long because I just get fed up with it. I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm a girl. Yeah, you want to say these things about me? Fine. But I don't have to listen. I'm going to turn my headset off. That kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Jake, you?
Yeah, like, I mean, I've been playing games since I was a kid, especially online. Like, that was one of the first things I remember hooking up, like the old Xbox, like the original, and playing, just some Halo 2, those big, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, especially on the Halo 2 front. But like, yeah, I've experienced not as much misogyny, except for the few times that I've allowed like Jessica or like my girlfriend or somebody like that to put on the headset, because as soon as you let a girl talk, oh my god, like it comes out. But like definitely, I remember as far as like racism in the old Halo 2 ones, you would sometimes get like French or like somebody else that was from another country on the server. And as soon as they found out you were American, like, you couldn't understand what they were saying, but dude, they were talking mad noise. And so like, definitely like, that's been the biggest one is in playing sports games as well. I nothing with homophobia or misogyny or racism, but definitely some like stuff like I
experienced a lot of homophobia in a lot of different gaming communities.
Oh yeah, as far as like,
I would be more than willing to drop an F word here or there, or anytime I mean, like any type of thing that made you sound emasculine or anything like that, they would automatically label you as whatever gender they would assume that would be. And I felt like that is something. When you're experiencing that as a kid, those are the kind of things that keep you in the closet. When you hear those things as pervasive online and in chat rooms and then with other people that are your age and how they look at things. Yeah, I've seen it in tons of different places.
Oh yeah, like it's especially within online gaming, that's one of the biggest things. And the bigger the community, that's one, I think what it really comes down to though, is like the larger the community, the more of a chance there is to bring out some of these like more toxic elements that you see.
Right.
You know, that doesn't mean that there aren't niche communities that don't have some toxic elements, but if there's one thing that I noticed, you know, on a list of like trying to like when I was trying to like come up with or think of like this week's topics of like, you know, what are some of the most toxic communities, it's like it really came down to, wow, these are huge communities, you know. And so and I think there's something to that, is like the more people
That's
there
fair.
are, the more opportunity there is to have like shitty people.
So why do you think, in regards to that, you know, why do you think this behavior? I mean, there are plenty of other places where there are large social, there are large gatherings of people. Why do you think that behavior is more prevalent here than some of those other ones? Or do you think that it's not? It's just as prevalent as it would be anywhere else. You just, if anywhere else you're going to have a mic and a chat room, you're going to have that same level of toxicity. Or do you think it's more so in communities, particularly in video game communities, like some of the toxic communities that we're going to be talking about later?
Well, I think that has to do with you being anonymous, first of all. So you have this air of like anonymity, but then on top of that, you're doing something competitive. So you are both able to hide your identity and you're competing with somebody. So you have this sense of, okay, well, I'm going to tear them down. I'm going to say whatever I want to because they are my enemy, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and they don't know who I am, and I can just pull out all the stops. So I think that has to do with part of it. I don't know. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, no, I was 100% agree. Like, it's just, they don't have to see this person face to face. Like, there's something weird about like my generation and myself in particular, is like I've always considered my online persona to be me. And so I've always had photos of myself. I've always had like, you know, like I've never had a troll account, if you will, you know, like where it's just some anime photos and I just yell.
I troll from my main account, you know.
Yeah, if I'm trolling, it's Jake trolling. You know what I mean?
It is me trolling you, not a troll account. It is not the site that thinks that your opinion is dog shit.
Exactly, bro. And so it's one of those where like I've never like used any type of like fake online thing. And so like even in video games, I've used like my own name or my stream name or my Twitter handle or like something that was always associated back to me. And so like I've never even felt like anonymous online in a way. And so like I don't understand it. When I'm talking shit, I keep it, you know, I'm talking shit. That's coming from me. But like it's I think it gets worse and worse whenever it is the anonymity, whenever they can kind of like say whatever they want to say and they feel like there's no consequences. But then, yeah, like Bronwyn said, it's also competitive, which already brings out, you know, it brings out a different side in most people. Competitive stuff will.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, you've got that anger, you've got that mixed with like, you know, they have no way of kind of like, you know, of you knowing who they are and showing up at their house to be like, yo, why did you say that? You know, kind of a thing. So they're just going with whatever they kind of feel like. And, you know, I'm not making excuses for them by far, but I definitely just think that's definitely why they're so brave with what they say.
Well, I mean, it seems to me like we at least all agree that it is more pervasive in gaming communities and competitive gaming communities in particular than just other large social communities, online communities in general, because of those aspects. I think that we can all agree on that for sure. And we've seen a lot of this stuff in the news. I mean, just as recently as a few weeks ago, Nintendo had to issue a statement regarding sexual harassment complaints within the Smash Brothers community. And in that regard, we talked about this on the show before, many of the fans were really upset about it because Nintendo, I mean, obviously Nintendo's not wrong for condemning sexual harassment, right? All of us here condemn sexual harassment unequivocally. Like, obviously, we all are against that. But many fans were upset about Nintendo's reaction because Nintendo has always had this kind of hands-off interaction with the community, and most of the competitions have been grassroots. My question to y'all is, are companies like Nintendo to blame when it comes for toxicity that exists within their own community? And if it's not on Nintendo, then who is responsible for that? Bronwyn, what do you think?
I think that there is responsibility on the hands of both sides. I think it's a little bit more on the sides of the players just because I think that we should be held responsible. I think that, I mean, just as human beings and like being in a community itself, it's really up to each individual.
You shouldn't need Nintendo to make you a good person.
Yeah, right?
Should have higher standards. Yeah.
Right. That's fair.
And yeah. I mean, just to say, why I'm saying a little bit of both, it's like, I get you're creating this environment. Like, you should maybe have a little bit of input, or just sort of like stand up for when things aren't going how they should, or when they are, like maybe recognizing and acknowledging that, like having some sort of a voice as being this center for where these interactions are happening.
I stand by that. I think that's a solid answer. Jake, what do you think? Are companies like Nintendo to blame for toxicity that exists within their own gaming community?
I don't know if they're to blame, but they're blamed for not like nipping it in the bud, right? Like, it's one of those things. I think, like, just as somebody who's worked in marketing, like, you've got to, I think, as if I was Nintendo's guy, right? And this isn't my pitch or anything like that, but Nintendo, if you're listening, here you go. You can take it. You know, they need to start
all kinds of pitches.
You got to start hosting these things, and you got to start setting the parameters, or either, you know, things like this sexual harassment at these kind of like events are going to be tied to your brand. You know, and you don't want people to think Nintendo is, you know, synonymous with toxic gaming communities. Nintendo's actually been pretty synonymous with us with nostalgia, with fun games like Mario, with, you know, iconic little even side characters like Yoshi or Kirby's, or like, you know, like there's all kinds of like fun
sexual harassment within the Smash Bros. Community. Like, that's not what you want to think of when it comes to Nintendo.
Exactly. And so it's one of those where, like, while they may not be held responsible for it so far, I think they should be held more accountable going forward, now that they've heard about it, now that they've seen it, now that they've kind of like started to even address it in a way. It's like, okay, well then you need to start hosting these things. That way you can start to hold the standard that your brand wants to set. And so that's kind of like my 2 cents on it. And
that's solid. Yeah.
You know, like,
I think I've seen that plenty of times within the Pokemon community. I've mentioned it with the Pokemon community, and the Pokemon community is not immune to sexual harassment claims, just like the Smash Bros. Community was. Even at one point in time, I know of one VGC player that had basically a terrorist threat put against him. Now, it was only a threat, and it never went to come to fruition, but like, it did absolutely terrify that player. And that's not to say that the whole community is like that. Absolutely not. But you know, and now the difference there, though, Jake, is that those competitions were run by Nintendo. So even in those situations, I mean, you still have that, you know, you still have, there will always be some level of toxicity, because in any given situation, it's kind of like Murphy's Law, in my opinion. And I think that's, I mean, that's not the best outlook to look at it. You want to try to be able to fix it, but even when Nintendo has had the reins, they've still had problems with that. So,
still drop the ball even whenever they've ran it, you know. And so it doesn't give a good outlook, but it's like, you know, put some more resources behind it and just get it right. I don't, you know, these are multi-million dollar corporations. They can do it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Another question for you guys, is the toxicity of video game communities different than toxic fandoms or con culture? Like, when you talk about the video game community, we've talked a lot about that in the past, and being in online chats and stuff like that. But do you think that there's any differential between that and, say, toxic fandoms? For one example that I can think of, Rick and Morty. I love Rick and Morty, but we also know that there are tons of toxic Rick and Morty fans. Like, that's an undeniable thing, in my opinion. Do you think that's any different than the video game communities? And if yes, how so? Jake, Bronwyn, you go. Bronwyn,
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay.
I need to point one direction, right? Well, you guys are all this side of that.
You're both over there. So I think that they are definitely both toxic, and there's definitely an issue that exists within them. But I think the difference is, to me, that stand out are, you have a choice of whether or not to engage in, let's say, like a fandom or con culture. But when it comes to an online game, if you're playing a game online, you really don't have that choice. Like, you're in the middle of it. I mean, you have the choice. Like what I
Yeah.
would do is, I'm not going to put my headset on because I don't want to listen to someone really graphically saying what they're going to do to me, because that does not make me happy. So I think that's the differences that I I can pick up on.
That's fair. Jake?
Yeah. No, like I definitely think there's, there is a lot of toxicity and it's very similar. Like, I mean, even in movies, you see Star Wars fans made some girl quit acting, I think, because, like she got so bullied for just playing a role. And so it's one of those where, like, actors and actresses have been bullied into quitting roles over fandoms. And so both of them are all fandoms, I think, can result in some pretty nasty kind of like, toxic traits, if you will. And so, but like Bronwyn said, I think the gaming community is unique in a way because, like, even if you do remove yourself from the chat, you remove your headset, anything like that, you're missing out on some pretty pivotal stuff. Like sometimes it could be, like there's things like, just team building and just team talk in general that like can really help in certain games.
Dude's over here.
Yeah.
That guy's over there.
And so, and in some stuff that if you sound like a straight white male in the chat, like that you don't get that bullshit. And so it's kind of like, it's sad that, different people just based off of how you sound, get a different gaming experience altogether. And so that's one of the things that, like, I do have to kind of like almost like lean towards, like gaming being unique in that aspect, because, like where a movie fandom can make someone quit a job, that's unique too, right? Gaming is something you're almost forced to sit through,
Yeah, if you want to enjoy the game, if you want to participate in the game at all. And I mean, yeah. So I agree. There's a major difference, at least between how they affect you, and I think that's a big point to make. But can you still enjoy a game if it has a toxic community? Bronwyn?
So I think that, I think to an extent you can, but when it gets to the point where you can't even be involved in the game because of that reason. I'm going to touch on this a little bit more when we get into the community, like specific communities. But for me, like with Grand Theft Auto, I really like that game, but I like the single player version of that game. I don't like the online player version of that game. So when you can separate those two things, maybe you can still get something out of it. But I think that to a certain point, if all you're feeling is attacked while you're playing something, it can ruin it for you, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel you there. I mean, to me, like you had to be like, for the GTA example, that is a game that at least you have a one-player mode that you can play, and you don't have the option for an online, but you may not have that option for the next game that comes along that you really do enjoy. It could be a game that's all online. It could be something like Fortnite where it's only online multiplayer or something like that. Whatever that situation may be, whatever your niche is, whatever it is you like, that can at least take out an entire experience for you, or possibly soil the whole game. Jake, what do you think?
I was gonna just say, like, it's weird instances. Like, there are games, like I'm gonna talk a little bit about Madden later and how toxic that community can be. But there is things where, like, Madden has a career mode, or even whenever you're just playing couch co-op with a friend, like versus each other, where it's less toxic of a situation and you can still really enjoy it. Now there are games where you're forced online, like you were saying, like a Fortnite or something like that. But even them, they've come out with, like, the Save the World mode, which was kind of the first mode that was going to come out, and I think you can kind of play it by yourself. But I do believe there's some kind of online aspects. But whatever, I don't want to give it a pitch. But it's just like, there are you kind of have to make sacrifices to still enjoy some of the games, even if you don't want to enjoy them online, right? Either you're stuck with just the story mode, or you're stuck with just the campaign, or something like this. And so I think there is a little bit of a trade-off, but you can enjoy some games that still have toxic communities, just in a different way.
Yeah, you just gotta find a new avenue to enjoy it, I guess. Is the kind of main takeaway there. Interesting question though. Does that same thing apply to fandoms? Can you still enjoy a TV show if it has a toxic fandom, a movie universe, cinematic universe? Like some of those have toxic fandoms. Are you still? Is that when I feel like that does make a big out of different of a situation? Brahman, what do you think?
Well, I still really enjoy Rick and Morty, so maybe that it makes my point for me. I think it's almost like when it's like, God, like why do you have to ruin it for the rest of us? Sort of mentality.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but if a community is so toxic, then it gets to the point where like maybe you want to share this really cool fandom or like this show that you like with your friend, and the moment you bring it up, they just like automatically have this like distaste for it. So it does, I think, impact. I don't think that means that you don't have to enjoy it though, just because a group of fans have made a bad name for something.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Jake, what about you? Toxic fandoms, still can enjoy them?
Yeah, I think, just the Rick and Morty example by itself kind of answers that question. Like, you can still like enjoy it, especially shows that have toxic fandoms. RuPaul, like, is one that, somebody sounded off in the chat about. Like, it has its own kind of toxic fandom there, but like, it's still a great show that's a lot of fun to watch. A lot of shows have toxic fandoms. And I think it goes with what we said, like earlier, or what I said earlier about how the more people you get in it, the more chances you take on it having a toxic fandom. And so there's anything that's popular risks a chance of get toxic fandom, at least some toxic fans, right? Not necessarily a toxic fandom overall. I don't even think Rick and Morty really has a completely toxic fandom. I think it has some toxic fans. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
And so,
but it is like memeably like.
Oh yeah. Well,
as far as like, have you ever heard of Rick and Morty? It's so deep, like you would get it.
Dude, they're just not smart enough. They don't. Yeah. They're just not smart enough to get it.
Don't get it.
Exactly. Point proven. All right. On the other end, but in all seriousness, what can be done to get rid of toxicity? That's a Pokemon. Toxicity. There we go. Toxicity in the gaming community. How can we detox? How do we detox the gaming community? Bronwyn.
Take it away.
Jake. Bronwyn. Which one? Jake. That's what I want to go with.
So speaking of RuPaul, like, no, dude, you missed a great transition. You should have went. Speaking of RuPaul, Detox, the gaming community. Detox is a very famous RuPaul's Drag Race queen. Anyway,
that was a transition.
And so, but yeah, no, detoxing certain communities. I honestly think that comes up to not like, I gave the whole spiel earlier about Nintendo needing to take a larger role, but like also good fans have to step up too. You have to report bad behavior. You have to help mods. That's a big thing, that like people need to, see something, say something kind of mentality. I'm sorry, but like, it's one of those where like, you got to root out some of these kind of like more toxic fans and call them out, call them out for their bad behavior. And, say like, whenever the Pickle Rick kid was standing on top of that, yelling at those McDonald's workers that are just there doing their job, bro, for like hardly anything, right? And like, he's yelling, "I'm Pickle Rick. Where's the Szechuan sauce?" Like rolling around and shit. Somebody should have slapped the fuck out of that dude and been like, "Hey, man, like, like we're just here to try to get some sauce that McDonald's is doing for funsies. Like, chill out. Like, you're making us all look like assholes." And so, it takes a little bit of everybody. It takes a village to raise a child.
You gotta chip in,
Yeah, it takes a little bit of everybody. It takes us, it takes the corporations, but I think togetherness is how you detox a community.
Togetherness is how we detox. I like that. What do you think, Brahman?
Oh yeah, to build on that, like in addition to like calling out the people who like aren't representing well, another thing you can do is to be there for people who like are doing a good job, or like let's say you hear a girl on chat and you can like me as a girl can be like, hey, like come over here, like let's play this game together, like maybe building a community within that, or like being there to support them because they're probably only being heard, like told things to tear them down, or just I know there's a lot of just like finding friends within games and creating like mini support networks within like a larger community. I think that's a way to kind of fight against this and maybe create a reputation amongst good gamer, or like good, I want to say good players, but like supportive players.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that helps a lot. One of the things that I noticed when I was researching for this deep dive was and researching for the top Zen, which we'll talk about a little bit later, was we're looking at different communities. We're looking at toxic communities. We're looking at communities that weren't toxic, wholesome communities, right? And the one of them that came up that was frequently on both lists is one that I noticed the most, which was Rocket League. And so I looked at why Rocket League was on both. And it's really interesting to see what it was. And this is mostly based on theory here. Now, I don't have this from any paper or any source. I haven't done any much more search other than, 30-minute Google session, between a couple of different resources. But it seems to me that most of the complaints about the Rocket League came from very early on in the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. And then most of the ones about the community being supportive have come a lot later on in the game. And so I looked at why mid-transition, why that there was a big shift from a really toxic community to a really supportive community. And it was because they changed the way that they reported people, the way that they grouped people based on behavior, and they just started inflicting or basically putting a lot more structure into their behavioral policies, and it worked. And it shows that if you can do stuff to actively engage in the community, you just have to take the effort to actually put those parameters on there, have a good reporting system, use that reporting system, not just have it there just to make people happy. And that can change something from something that was be rated as the most toxic to something that's rated as the most beneficial.
Build the community you want to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, with all this talk about toxicity in the gaming community, we thought it'd be a great chance to discuss some of our experiences and some of the internets with online gaming communities and give some good and bad examples of toxic communities, as we've given before earlier. When I looked into this topic, it became very clear that regardless of how wholesome a community is, there will always be some realm of toxicity. Every single wholesome pick on here has some bad juju. And we plan on giving you the good and the ugly with each of these situations. But in that same regard, even some of the most toxic communities, there are players, like you said, that you can build that support structure, Bronwyn, and hopefully, that do give hope that the minimum moral standard of society can be maintained in that kind of environment. But with that said, here's some of the good, the bad, and the really fucking toxic. We are going to start off with some of the really fucking toxic, and why not start off the countdown with one of the most notorious ones, which is Call of Duty. Call of Duty is one of the most popular first-person shooters out there. No offense to COD players, but the fetishization of military mixed with the fast-paced realistic violence is a cesspool for every Chad and simp on the internet. In-game lobbies and voice chat. If you have the in-game lobby with voice chat active, it's not uncommon to have literal children screaming slurs of all kinds into your ears for any kind of offense, killing them, getting killed by them, having too high of a kill-death ratio because you're cheating, or having too low of a kill-death ratio because you suck,
breathing,
so on. Right. Players will go even further, advocating for murder and even rape in situations when they are frustrated. Hands down, one of the most toxic communities in gaming.
Yes.
Robin, have you had any experiences with Call of Duty at all?
No, I would not do that to myself.
I know that Jake has. Jake, you've had plenty of experience with Call of Duty.
Yeah, I've played some Call of Duty. It honestly, it's just one of those things where like you just like I said, I started playing at a young age, so I've gotten used to getting berated with like racial slurs, homophobic slurs, like all kinds of stuff, and just kind of like gaming through it, if you will. And like, I know it sounds bad, but it's like, it's almost like, you get a filter and you're just like, oh yeah, cool. You fucked my mom. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like
You're just letting the insults fly by like the bullets.
yeah. Water off a duck's back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Well, that about sums that up as far as a toxic community. And we've used it as many examples earlier on because it is just one of the most common ones that most people know. But speaking of common toxic communities that people are very frequently talk about, and speaking of first-person shooters, you wanted to talk about another community, which was Halo. Tell us a little bit about that, Jake.
Yeah, Halo Combat evolved to possibly infinity. And that's not just the numerical, just like it just means like every Halo ever made could be one of the most toxic communities. Because before Chad swarmed Call of Duty lobbies, Halo was home to some of the biggest assholes in video games. I haven't fact checked this, but I believe it's where the teabag originated. Where you could kill an enemy and then just sit there and just drop your ball sack on them real quick. It was one of the first lobbies I remember being explicitly told that my mother was about to get some sweet lovemaking done to her. And, it was one of the first places someone claimed to had fucked my mom. And so like I heard that she was gonna, go on a nice date, and then I also heard that she was just gonna get ringed, and it just cheeks clapped. And I was like, okay. And shit talking's huge in the first person community, but Halo was the OG of OGs when it comes to garbage community standards. Like I remember when I first started playing Halo back in the day, and I don't want to really show my age too much, but like it was just one of those things where, I don't think you really like, you just thought it was talking shit. And but right. as we've gotten into 2020, I realized no, that was a verbal abuse.
Yeah.
And it's weird to still hear it in some video games to this day,
Bronwyn, was this another first-person shooter online community that you avoided as well?
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame you. I don't blame you one bit.
Halo was toxic, man.
I played a little bit. I just I never was super active in the chat or headset thing or anything like that. But yeah, I've played it a few times.
Halo was crucial for callouts. It was so crucial for callouts. If you got good callouts, you could do a lot of damage. And so it was one of those where every time you'd get in a game, you would be like, please God, let this be a good chat. Please let this be a good chat. But then they also had big team battles that had 8 versus 8, and at one point you would have 16 people in a chat at one time, and oh my God, those were just cesspools of just the worst.
I mainly played just with people I knew, so it was never that bad. It was just I was just playing with a couple friends or something. Yeah. Which, I mean, they could be mean, but it's okay because they're your friends. You know that they love you. So.
Right. Yeah. They're just fucking with you at the end of the day. The other people, it's like, hey, I didn't consent to any of that bullshit. Well, we got tons more toxic communities out there. Halo is just one of them. But there's one of the biggest ones that stick out are the MOBAs. More than anything else, for those of you who don't know what MOBA is, multiplayer online battle arena. I believe that's what it stands for.
Yeah.
And you, Bronwyn, wanted to talk a little bit about League of Legends and that community. Tell us a little bit about League of Legends.
Yeah, so I've had good experiences within playing it and within just me playing it personally in that community itself. But what I really noticed was when I went to the League of Legends Championship, one of the matches that they had out in their center and on the West Coast, was just the total imbalance of gender when it came to the professional players. There was not a single female player on any of the teams, and there was a huge team roster. When I got there, I just felt like I stood out immediately. There were a couple other girls maybe just in cosplay at the event, but I really just felt like I stood out there, and
Yeah.
I started looking into it after because I thought this is insane with how huge this game is. There's not a single
Right.
female playing on a professional level. How is that even possible? And when I looked into it, I found that there was in fact a female player who Maria Crevelling, who is Ramelia, was her gamer tag. And she was actually the first transgender female woman to ever compete in the LCS. But she was subject to such intense and constant transphobic and sexist comments in every single match. Fans would dispute her gender identity. They wrote critically about her appearance. They bashed her abilities as a player. And a few weeks into the season, she removed herself from the roster and cited anxiety, self-esteem issues. She hasn't returned to LCS since. So that kind of, even though I didn't personally experience the toxicity playing the games, I was aware that it existed just from going and seeing the matches myself. And it's just really sad.
Yeah, that is really sad. That's, I mean, that's a very blatant example of toxicity within a community, especially when you chase out, you know, people who are competitive players, you know, competing on a stage high enough to, you know, I don't know necessarily, you know, she was in the championship series. I mean, that's competing at the highest level of that game, that wants to exit that series because of just the transphobic and sexist comments made by players. I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah. Like it takes so much to get to that level, like to get there and to not be,
the training and everything that takes it to get there, and then just to end up dropping out, or not dropping out, but needing to bow out because of anxiety and all that, you know, because of just fans being toxic. Like, it's got to be terrible.
Yeah, it is pretty terrible. Well,
one of the most toxic.
Speaking of terrible, one of the most toxic communities out there, hands down.
We're gonna get to good things eventually, guys.
We are gonna get to good things eventually. Yes, there is a rainbow at the end of this pot of shit. But speaking of other toxic communities, speaking about garbage toxic communities, tell us a little bit about what's going on with Madden and why it deserves a mention on one of the most toxic communities. Jake.
Yeah, so I've got Madden, but let's be honest here, 2K, FIFA, and many other sporting game communities are just toxic hotbeds for toxic communities. And so one of the first messages that I ever got in a video game was a poorly written "you should kill yourself." And that was from Madden Online. I was probably about I want to say maybe 15, and like playing online video games, especially Madden back in the day was, it was really something that it was hard to pull off, but it was a lot of fun just playing someone that wasn't your best friend sitting next to the couch on you. But dude, it was brutal. You would always get messages, most of them telling you about how much of a garbage player you were. But not just that, it was always personal attacks. One of the only games on this list that has actually led to a murder at a live event. The Madden community is just one of the many terrible sports sims communities. If you don't know about it, Madden had an actual, tournament in Florida where one of the contestants who lost a game went out to his car, got a gun, came back, and shot up the event. And it actually led to, I believe, one of the other contestants passing away. And so
that's what I would consider toxic.
The most ultimate toxicity of, communities is ones where, they actually led to a mass shooting. So, plagued with toxic masculinity and fueled by preteen anger, Madden is world renowned for having a toxic community. And honestly, 2K, FIFA, and a lot of other ones are, just not too much further down the line. The only saving grace of this game is the fact that it is probably one of the only last football sim games out there. So if you're a sports fan, it's one of the few things that you can play. And it is honestly a lot of fun to play with your buddies, right? Just couch together. But online and even the tournament community, I would highly suggest most people avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big sports ball fan, so I've never been into it. But I did used to play it back in the day when I was mostly what I'd play would be NCAA for football.
Which RIP NCAA too.
Yeah, yeah, that was a thing back in the day. But that's because I like to play with the mascot teams or something. I don't know. I had fun with it, but I would never go online. And I know I've seen my brother go online before because he does love those kind of games, and it's definitely a very toxic community. Yeah, very, very toxic community. Bronwyn, you were talking a little bit earlier about some of your experiences with GTA, and it definitely deserves a mention on toxic communities. Tell us a little bit more about some of your experiences with GTA.
So that's where I've had my most experiences with like personal experiences with harassment, and I love the game and I love all the single player stuff, but I was so excited when I first got my very first gaming headset and I fired up the PS4. I was putting on GTA 5. It was I'm gonna do this online gaming thing. This is fun. Within one session, I was I'm never going back.
Oh no.
Not good. As soon as people heard my voice, it was I had a target on my back. I had people saying they would rape me. I had somebody actually make noises like they were pleasuring themselves while
gross,
disgusting. Just being very crude. And granted, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto, you know what you're getting into when you're getting into this game. So I feel I have pretty tough skin. I'm I can handle this. No, it was beyond anything that people should deal with.
That sounds like it.
Or people would follow me around in the game. I couldn't get away from people. They would just start following me. And and anytime you do something wrong, or you make I don't know, you're not on your toes or something, and they just start attacking you for your gaming abilities. Oh, what are you doing here? It's come on, you've made a mistake while playing game before. You just didn't target. It's not that big of a deal when a guy does it, but when a girl does it, oh my gosh, why is she here? So yeah,
one of the worst gamers ever.
Stupid shit in video games. Yeah.
Right. Everyone does stupid shit.
Oh, if you tune into my stream, you'll watch me. You'll watch the struggle bus leave every day. I am not good at video games.
Any guy that's ever played any first-person shooter where friendly fire was on has had the moment where they go, "Hey, is friendly fire on? Dude, hey, what the fuck, man?" That exchange has happened a zillion times over.
Yeah.
So.
But
everyone fucks up on video games.
I'm not alone in this. There was a study that was done last year, and over half of women said that they experienced sexism or harassment just based on their gender. The moment they revealed their gender or heard on a game, that they would start experiencing harassment, and that's true. It was true for over half of the women who were surveyed, which is alarming and not okay.
Yeah, that's fucking awful.
Not
that
okay.
Shouldn't be the case, but that is not okay. Well, one of the things that is also interesting to me that I was looking into this is that we found out that the gamers that exist in these toxic communities, some of the gamers that are the most persistent, some of the gamers that have the most, particularly female-directed aggression, usually have the worst stats. So they're awful at the game. So the funny thing to me about it is that most of what this research shows is something that we've known all along, which is they do this shit because they're fucking terrible at the game. Yeah, and they have nothing better to do, or they're just shitty people. I don't know why people do this. It's hard for me to put myself in the mind of that kind of level of toxicity.
Frustration. If the studies show that they have low KDs, it's because they fucking suck. And so they want to yell at somebody, and they yell at females mostly because they can't stand the fact that they have nothing else on them. You know what I mean? They're trying to say that oh, look at me, I'm so mad. You know they just have nothing to add to it, and so they lash out any way they can.
Yeah,
but
Still super shitty, and I'm sorry for anybody that has experienced it. Sorry that you've had to experience that, Bronwyn. But luckily, not all communities are as toxic as these. And with this onslaught of bad news, we thought it'd be important to highlight some of the good communities as well. With that said, every single one of these examples, good examples, has some level of toxicity, and we wanted to make sure to cover that as well. So we're going to go through the good and the ugly here with both of these. But I wanted to start off with saying one of the communities that I've found that's been one of the most inclusive has been the Pokemon community. And I know that the Pokemon community isn't perfect, and it isn't always the best. I understand that, and I'm going to get to more of that at the end of this little bit. But it has hands down been one of the most accepting communities that I've been a part of. There's a strong majority of Pokemon players of color, a strong defense of LGBTQIA members within the community. Earlier this year, for example, I participated in Rose Tower VGC tournament. Okay, so just give you a little bit of background. This tournament was actually Rose Tower VGC is a competitive Pokemon series. They do competitions throughout the year, and everyone collects points, and then they have a championship at the end of the year. One of their last tournaments that they had right before this charity tournament, they crowned a victor. Guy was doing his thing, but he'd made a whole bunch of homophobic, racist tweets online, and the Rose Tower VGC said, no, you are stripped of your title, so you can no longer participate in Rose Tower. We're taking the prize money back. We're taking all your points back, and you've been jettisoned from the tournament, which is a great response, right?
Yeah.
But an even better response is they said, and instead, we're going to have a charity tournament this next week that's going to directly benefit LGBTQIA-related causes and causes related to BLM and the Black Lives Matter movement that was going on across the country at the time. And it's a perfect example of how the Pokemon community does draw a line at toxicity and says this is what we stand for. And it's pretty unequivocal across the board. I haven't run into a Pokemon chat room where I felt it out of place being bisexual and being open about that. And everybody's always been very welcoming of that. More so, it's definitely something that I feel like I could talk about more in a Pokemon chat than I ever would feel on a Call of Duty chat. You know, make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, by far.
Yeah.
Especially if you're comparing Pokemon to Call of Duty. Yeah, that's a vast difference in fandoms.
Trying to give some good examples of how like it's much easier in this one than it is that. But
yes,
the Pokemon community still does have an ugly side. The Pokemon community has a vast age range, when with that a vast range of common sense knowledge and patience. Hackers are also abundant in the community, which is increasingly hard to track for a variety of different reasons. Another issue is due to the artificial scarcity of some items, Pokemon, and things. And due to the collectability of the franchise, there's not only price gougers, but there's also a small community, a small but loud crowd within the community that has become increasingly vocal about their complaints. You may know them in the Pokemon community as the Dexiters. They are a very loud group, but they have not slowed down Pokemon in any way, shape, or form. These members have had a tendency to harass other fans who are a lot more happy with what they get when it comes to the Pokemon company. And despite the Dexter's best efforts, nothing that they have done has managed to slow Nintendo down or convince Nintendo to do literally anything. Nice. They've been pretty firm on their stance there. And, you know, one of the big things that happened, Dexters, for one example, are part of the toxic community. And they really did try to see if they could boycott Sword and Shield because they weren't getting all 900 Pokemon in the game, and we ended up with like 600. You know, like there's still a.
But it's not all 900.
That's it. I think it's 800 actually. It's like we're like really close. It's like stupidly close. But it's not all 900. But anyways, Pokemon Sword and Shield is now, as far as Pokemon games go, and as far as Pokemon games sold goes, is third. Okay?
Yeah.
Red and blue, gold, silver, and then Sword and Shield is right behind that in number of copies sold. That is a huge amount. They have not slowed them down at all. In fact, if anything, this last series, they've gained momentum. So, anyways, That's my big rant on toxicity within the Pokemon community and the acceptance within the Pokemon community. It's a really wholesome community. I've also met a lot of people. I mean, like, shout out to Echo Rose. I've given him a couple shout outs here on this podcast before. He's part of a community that I met within the Pokemon community where we just help each other out and try to figure stuff out, and we compete in tournaments and cheer each other on. It could be a pretty wholesome community, but there are some toxic elements in it, just like with every community. Speaking of wholesome communities that have some toxic elements as well, Stardew Valley is one of your picks, Jake. Tell us a little bit about Stardew Valley.
Yeah, so Stardew Valley, this game has probably one of the nicest subreddits that I've ever had the pleasure of visiting, with new updates that keep coming from the indie developer who built this game alone, sold it to scale, and then bought it back up, and then and then it blew up even more. Stardew Valley is what I call a certified banger. I love this game so much. It's so quaint. It's so wholesome. And yeah, like I said, like, it was made by this indie developer who then, partnered up with a much larger developer so that he could get this thing kind of scaled out, get it out there to the. Then it made so much money that he was like, you know what? I want this title all by myself so I can make free updates for people. And so that's what he does. He just drops free updates. And not only is this game great for your mental health, the community is super helpful. If you ever check out the Stardew Valley subreddit, you won't be disappointed. Not only are there a lot of really fun memes, but everybody there is very helpful in trying to get folks kind of started, teaching you new techniques on how to farm, and new ways to just kind of like enjoy the game. And Stardew Valley itself is one of those games that like has been out way before Animal Crossing was able to make its debut on the Switch, and so it really kind of like held down your Animal Crossing needs. And it also had some like little flair for adventures here and there. And so I think it's one of those really fun games that has a really wholesome community and a really awesome subreddit to boot. And so I think the really only ugly part about the Stardew Valley fandom, and I think this can go for a few other things on this list as well, is don't Google the fan art. Like many games on this list, some fans get a little too passionate about the games. And even though Stardew Valley has 8-bit characters, that doesn't mean that some fans haven't taken liberty in trying to, figure out just how curvy certain fans may be, or just how strong and jagged some other characters may be, how like just, their biceps may glisten.
Like you did Google the fan art.
What? No.
Seems like you did Google the fan art.
What? No. My internet.
Just for research.
Yeah, no, it was for research. Yeah, like I had to research it for this, episode. I was trying to look up bad things, and somebody was like, "Uh-oh, the fan art," and so.
So you had to go for a look. Well, I feel yeah. That sounds like a good game, and it sounds like it does sound like a good community. Sounds like a fairly wholesome community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
did you ever get a chance to play Stardew Valley, Bronwyn? Or have you heard of that before?
No,
I haven't heard of this.
I don't want to. It's sort of getting like Harvest Moon sort of vibes.
Yes. Yeah. It definitely gives off Harvest Moon vibs, which if you liked Harvest Moon,
that game,
you would definitely like Stardew Valley.
Very. I love that name, Stardew Valley. Like, ooh, I want to move there.
Oh,
I know, right?
Stardew Valley.
That's interesting.
Let me just, and I know we're running on time, but like it starts off with you getting a letter from your granddad who had just passed away, but he left you this little ranch out in the middle of nowhere, and he basically says, if corporate life ever gets you down, son, you can go move out to Stardew Valley. And so one day you're sitting in your cubicle, and all of a sudden you go, you know what? Fuck this job, and you move out to Stardew Valley, and that's how the game starts off. And I love that. I'm always like, yes, because it's every millennial's dream. We're all just like, we all just want to be like, fuck this corporate job. I'm gonna go be a farmer.
Yeah, let me get some goats. Let me get some land.
Some cows, like, oh my god,
leave the city.
Right.
Disturbing part.
Give me a farm where I can have my own chicken, cows. My partner can grow their own vegetables, and I can, do my thing and Still have Netflix. They still have Netflix though.
And still be able to stream.
Is that it does allow for while you can get married in online co-op now. That was a new update that just came out, so you and your partner both can play and get married in it. If you happen to fall in love with one of the mini villagers, it doesn't matter what sex, gender, whatever you may want to be on the spectrum. You can marry anyone in the video game. So
there you go. There you go. Well, that's pretty good. That's very accepting, and that's good on them. Well, speaking of games like Animal Crossing also makes our list. The Animal Crossing has always been noted as one of the most friendliest communities for a lot of the same reasons that you hear about Stardew Valley. It's not super surprising that a game specifically designed around building a community has such a strong community. For the most part, Animal Crossing fans are typically great to helping each other out, sharing unique ideas, fantastic memes, and allowing for unique opportunities and connection in a post-COVID world. I mean, we talked about this before with the COVID situation of how people have had funerals and people have had weddings and people have had graduations and all kinds of good stuff in Animal Crossing. And it's really brought some sense of being able to be social to people in a reality where we've all been stuck inside our homes. Jake, I know you're a big Animal Crossing fan, right?
Oh yeah,
you play a little bit.
Over 200 hours.
Over 200 hours. Bronwyn, did you ever get a chance to play Animal Crossing?
Yeah, I just mentioned in the chat I was playing Animal Crossing right before getting on here. So I actually hadn't played for a while. I've been just have had my Switch kind of sitting there and it was calling to me. So I opened it up. I had no idea how long it had been. So when I got to my island, I was really overwhelmed. I ended up just like rewinding time for a bit because I couldn't deal with all the weeds and everything. But it's looking good. My island is still looking great. I rearranged some flowers. I've been like lining up, trying to crossbreed some flowers to get different colors. It's been doing well.
Yep,
this is good.
This is the first one I ever played, and I really am. I'm regretting not having played it for over a week now, and so oh my god, I do not. Like it was an anxiety beater, and now that Bronwyn brought up the weeds, I'm like, anxiety. I don't want to log in.
All my weeds are everywhere. Oh no. Well, with that said, there are plenty of Animal Crossing fans who detract from the wholesomeness of the community. Many come from the difference in opinions on how to play the game, such as whether time travel or not is cheating, like if Bronwyn was cheating with time traveling back and forward. I'm personally pro time travel because anything that allows me to reenact any Doctor Who-esque fantasies, I encourage. So. Additionally, with the ability to create items with custom art, there will always come issues with inappropriate designs. And another big issue that my partner was talking about was players stealing things from other players' islands as another issue that people have had as well. But yeah, I haven't personally played it very much, so I think you guys probably are more familiar with it than maybe even I am. So far, the reporting system I've heard works pretty well. And if the most toxic thing in your community is people nagging at people who time travel or stealing fictional items, then you're in a pretty good spot,
Yeah, I have been a part of some of the cataloging events where somebody has stolen an item and then the person had to shut down the event, and it is sad, that somebody would do it because it kind of ruins it for everybody involved. But that's only really happened to me once while playing, and I've probably been a part of at least half a dozen, if not more, cataloging events on Animal Crossing online, meeting random people through Discord servers. Yeah. And so, it's overall a pretty wholesome community. But yeah, there are a few naggers out there about the whole time traveling thing. You'll get some people that are just like, hey, that's not how it's meant to be played. And, I'm a big fan of my system, my choice. If I want to do some time travel, I can. It's my save and it's not really going to affect yours. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, but overall, great community with the Animal Crossing. I've got 200 hours in it, so obviously I love it.
Yeah. Have you had positive experience with the Animal Crossing community, Bronwyn?
I have. I've had a lot of great experiences, and it was Really great because I got the game and even the system right at the beginning of the quarantine. So I was able to visit my friends' islands and even was like hanging out with my brother over Animal Crossing when we weren't seeing each other in person. So it was great to feel that kind of community, like you mentioned earlier, like people throwing these events and having a space to connect, which goes into my conspiracy theory that Nintendo started COVID because of Animal Crossing. You know?
That would make sense. It's a perfect plot to sell more
around the same
Animal
time.
Crossing consoles.
It's all adding up.
I kid, but it's been great. It's been a really good, a good game. Definitely happy feels whenever I'm playing it. Always happy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a game that you have noted gives you happy feels, at least, Elder Scrolls Online is another community that you put down as something that you've had some good experiences with. Bronwyn, can you tell us a little bit about Elder Scrolls Online?
Yes, I love Elder Scrolls. Every game and their community is amazing. I love this world and just how everyone has treated me within it. I've always felt an atmosphere of support. One of my first times playing online, I approached a stranger at an enchanting table and just asked them for help using the runes. And they ended up crafting me a rune for free, giving me a ton of gold to get started. And I thought that was really amazing. Not only were they willing to help me, but just go above and beyond to help me. And
that was a really nice situation. I don't think I've ever experienced anyone that nice in a gaming community. Really, hey, can you help me? And they're like, yeah, no, here's a handy dandy tool, and here's some gold to get started. Off on your way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But it's great, and just in reading other people's experiences, it's not unique just to me. The different subreddits are so supportive and really people looking out for their fellow players, answering questions respectfully, and just like geeking out over this incredible world that they're able to explore and be a part of. There are even resources that are only made possible because of this passionate fan base. The unofficial Elder Scrolls pages is an ever-growing archive of in-game information and lore that I've used throughout playing not just the online games, but in playing Skyrim and Oblivion, having this like resource and catalog that was completely made by fans for fans. I think is really cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So that's the good. But there is some ugly. There's always a little bit.
Let's talk about the ugly. Yeah.
Well, it has, all the Elder Scrolls games has a reputation for excessive modding, which brings up maybe it's not an attack on other players, but it brings up an ethical dilemma in regard to respecting the game itself, the fairness amongst the community, and just taking advantage of the game. So that's really present within the community. Also, while the subreddit seemed to be a really supportive place of camaraderie and positivity, the official Elder Scrolls Online forums have a different atmosphere. It has a lot more troll-like behavior that's present there. Also, some of the in-game chat zones, they're always going to have those kind of bad seeds or people who are trying to be annoying in the game. Yeah. But typically you'll see that
given the opportunity.
Yeah, given the opportunity. You'll see that usually in like the starter areas or the bigger cities where there's more people, like you say, there's more people congregating. It tends to be where you find, because there's always going to be people in the game that aren't the nicest. But I think overall it's a pretty wholesome community in Elder Scrolls Online.
Nice.
Sounds pretty dope. Yeah, it sounds pretty friendly for someone to, offer you resources to start off right at the beginning, and having that big catalog created by the community. Sounds like pretty solid structure for a healthy community. I
gotta give it another try.
Yeah, you gotta give it another try. Anyways, one of the other games we had on this list that Jake put on here, that Jake's going to talk about us for a second, is actually one that I've got a chance to actually watch a little bit on Twitch recently, and looks like a lot of fun. And I've actually had some personal experiences with people in this community that have been super positive, but you know a little bit more about it, which is No Man's Sky. Tell us a little bit about No Man's Sky.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, this game is a doozy. If you would have said that No Man's Sky in 2020 would have had a dedicated community of players that are devoted to this franchise, I would have laughed you out of town. The catastrophe that was Hello Games' build up and release of the one of the most ambitious games perhaps ever, led to a mass of players disappointed, underwhelmed, and seeking refunds. However, since then, Hello Games has been hard at work to justify the AAA price tag. Uh, since the day of release, they have done this by releasing free patches to loyal players, and through this, the game has created a genuinely, fully fleshed out and interesting game environment. Thanks to new and exciting new features such as base building and customizable options, not to mention that there's new generated worlds and different views for all players, and the fact that they actually eventually rolled out multiplayer, because when this game launched, the multiplayer didn't work. There was no such thing. Like there was this whole like built up kind of like hypeness that like we were going to get this giant huge multiplayer universe, but then like it ended up being a bunch of nothingness. And then eventually, it did evolve into the game that I think a lot of people wanted at launch. And so the community is a hub for players to share their own unique discoveries and journeys across the near infinite galaxies of No Man's Sky. The positive community is like a product of one of the this positive community is product of only the loyalist players to remain from launch. And so a lot of the people that you talk to, whenever you talk to players from this community, they've been playing it since day one. And so while they may, hate, or like a lot of people hated it right off the bat, they stuck with something in there that kind of like said, this is a cool game and I like the idea. And they gave the studio time to make it better. And the studio did. No Man's Sky is one of the few games that I think the developers said, hey, we hear you loud and clear. We're going to go back to the drawing board and really, continue to build out more and more things onto this game. And they did just that. And the community has been super helpful. They've been pretty awesome. The subreddit's a lot of fun to go into and see some of the cool bases people have built, some of the cool things they've done on different worlds, and just to see where other people have visited, right? And so, but like everything on this list, there is a little bit of ugly. I said earlier, this game was a disaster from the beginning, and its community, but the community has been there from the jump. Newcomers might feel overwhelmed or even behind, but if you stick with it, you will find a community that's there to help you build and settle the universe. And so while it may feel overwhelming nowadays whenever you jump in, because there has been a lot added to No Man's Sky, and there is a lot to take in from the jump, the community's super helpful. There's a few discords. There's the subreddit, like I mentioned earlier, and most everybody's pretty helpful. And they all want to just help you figure out what you got to do to settle the universe. And so it really made a complete 180, 180 from its launch of which was a complete disaster.
That's pretty cool. And as I was saying earlier, Bronwyn, have you had any experiences in No Man's Sky at all? Have you got to check it out? Check out any gameplay?
No, I haven't played, but now I want to.
It's a really interesting concept, and I was watching a couple people stream it within some communities that I've been talking to, and it does look like a lot of fun. It does seem kind of like a much more peaceful game. Like you're usually just sitting there mining lasers, and I watched some guy running away from aliens most of the time, and that was running out of fuel in his jetpack. There's some fun situations you get yourself in, and it looks like a really wholesome community. They were super supportive. I knew them before as super supportive people before I knew them as No Man's Sky players, and they just happened to all fall into that category. So it tells you what their community's like.
Mm-hmm.
No, and it's one of those where you will go from one planet being a very Animal Crossing kind of chill I'm mining experience to the next one's full of sentries, and it's like hell on Earth, and as soon as you drill one hole into a rock, you've got 40 alien kind of robot things trying to kill you. And so it's one of those games where it can go from 0 to 100 real quick, so it helps to have a very supportive community around you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of Geek Life. Before we go, did we get any new followers that we can say thank you to? I didn't see any pop up here, but no. Okay,
Just our loyal bunch.
just our loyal bunch. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate that. Anything going on in chat, Bronwyn?
Yes. So I found out there's a coven crossing that sounds interesting. I want to look into that. People creating covens within Animal Crossing. That was really cool. Yeah, Jesse, and Nelly, you guys have been fire in the chat, so thanks for keeping it going.
Yeah, thank you. And so again, we said it at the top of the hour. We've said it at every break. But we all have social medias. You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch at Rusebane, WRUSE_BANE. And Bronwyn, where can they find you?
Oh, they can find me on Twitch and Instagram, which I realized in the beginning of the show I said Twitter and Instagram, but I do not have a Twitter, so you will not find me there, but you will find me on Twitch. This week I will be reading passages from the Hyrule Historia, so you should tune into that.
Nice.
Awesome. That's badass. All right, Jake, where can they find you? What you going to be streaming this week?
You can find me at Gonzo Gone Live, as always, baby. And I will be streaming some Fall Guys. Probably, again, I finally won the crown. I got a taste of victory. And ever since then, it's just been like fueling me, going. Like I'm living for Fall Guys and crowns right now. So like, I'll definitely be online later this week. So stick around for that. And thank you, just one more shout out in the chat. Thank you, Saint Center, for tuning in today. Not only is this also our favorite time of the week, but we also love you. And I believe it was a great stream too. So thank you for the shout out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We do all appreciate that. All right. Well, you can find me at the spot that I was talking about earlier. I'm going to be streaming some Pokemon probably, or, Fall Guys is out there. I might try that too.
Definitely check it out.
There's been a lot of cool stuff out there. I've had new friends that have been streaming Overwatch that have made me want to get back into that. And then, of course, seeing No Man's Sky, I actually been really interested in trying out that as well. But I don't know. I've got just a little bit of time before Avengers comes out. So, I'm just trying to figure out. So we'll see. But you can find me, again, Rusebane. You can also check out Geeklife's content on YouTube, coming soon, and Instagram. Links to which can be found in the description below. Big shout out to our moderator Bronwyn and our moderator Nelly, helping us out there. Also, big shout out to our producer Cape and all of our followers for the support. And we'll be back same time, same place next week. So stay tuned for more of the nerdy news you need to know. Till then, peace out, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Peace.